Here is a Lamentations of the Flame Princess adventure. Of course, you can use it with the other OSR games. It's called The Saint of Bruckstadt. It's written by Markus Schalte. He's from Austria. It's 100 pages. It's originally written in German, and this is the English PDF version of it. Obviously, because I speak English, and my German is rusty at best, which I apologize should I butcher any names of this adventure that are in it. So down in the description, you'll find a link to his website where you can pick it up. It's not on Drive-Thru RPG, and you can find the English PDF version that I'm using here. So, yeah, 100 pages, and it is a dense 100 pages. I have had just a terrible time trying to make this video because I just haven't been able to do it justice. And I don't want to make the video be over 30 minutes long. You probably don't want to sit there and watch it. I appreciate you watching it, of course, but I don't want you to have to sit there for 30 minutes while I try to go through this thing and tell you everything that's going on in it. So this is really going to be the cliff notes of it because there's just so much to talk about. So there's the cover, that bright pink. Interesting. Here's a little bit of what's going on. This is actually the back cover. I moved it here. Another thing good is to show you kind of how, this is an iPad Air 2. I'm using Goodreader app, how you can kind of move stuff around, how it renders, because it's just different than when you do it on a PC, on a computer. So adventure for 2 to 4 level first characters. Long story short, it's in Germany, 1631. Doomsday panic has gripped the land except for this town, Bruckstadt, because they believe that they have the protection of St. James, who they honor every 10 years with a festival, and they go down to these catacombs and they lay a magical shroud, kind of a holy shroud, on his sarcophagus, and that's what gives him protection. Well, come to find out, he was an asshole about 500 years ago. He was an inquisitor that came through the area, murdered a lot of people at the stake, and he was rightfully killed, but he did curse the town. So they're, in essence, they think it's helping them, that he's helping them, and really the people that do know in the town, that are wise to it, they know that they're staving off his terrible curse. That's really the gist of the main story, but it is so much more than that, and that's where this video could bog down easily. And that's one thing that we're going to try to not do. So there we go. Markus Schalte, Marcella Scoffman, I hope I got your name right. She did the art. Here's the content. So introduction, Map of Grenzland, Ruined Castle Aarhorst, Wolfsbog, the Barrow, Bruckstadt, the town itself proper, and then the 5 areas of the catacombs, and then the appendix. So obviously the introduction is going to tell you how to kind of run the adventure, what's going on with the story. The map of the Grenzland is going to show you overall, take like a, random encounters and a map. That's why it's called Map of Grenzland, obviously. And then it's going to spotlight 3 of these areas here: the Ruined Castle Aarhorst, the Wolfsbog, and the Barrow. Now, each of these 3 places, they have NPCs, encounters, kind of like small little, they're almost like little mini dungeon crawls, while this is a dungeon crawl proper, I guess you could say. So here it is, the adventure, notations, and game mechanics. It definitely wants to be kind of a little bit like a small Barrow maze, with keeping track of your torches and, everything that you've got, your provisions stuff, and just how it is laid out. The adventure's got more about the information. There's these swords, these 3 magical deadwood swords that the characters are going to need. And this is going to kind of tell you a little bit about how you need to go find those. What's bringing them to the town? Maybe these are a little bit of adventure hooks, I guess you could say, a treasure map or a witch hunt. There's also a cult of the toad that's there. And then it's going to tell you about the terrible history about how St. James was an asshole, and then the shroud that gets put upon it. What the mission is, how to identify and fight the enemy, and then if things go wrong, should the player characters not be able to stave off the curse, what's going to happen to this poor town? Now right here, identify and fight the enemy. Very important. There are a lot of NPCs, and there is a good bit of magical items, really diaries and chronicles and stuff like that. There's some of them here that you can see. And these are going to give a lot of background history about what's going on, so hopefully the players will figure out, this is actually what's happening, and kind of get them clued in. One thing I would tell you is highlight each of these, highlight anything that is connected to a player character, to an NPC, or is hidden somewhere in some tomb or whatever, and give them different colors, and know that this is connected kind of to that, and this diary is found here, and it's connected to this. In the back, we'll have more information about each one of these items. So it says here, like, the following sources can provide players with information on how to combat the spirit of James. And so it gives you right up in the beginning, this is the information that's important. But some of this may be behind, like, this guy or her. So she has gained deep insight into the otherworldly and knows which weapons to use to deal spirits. So these NPCs have the information. This stuff's not just laid out there all the time for you. You're going to need to role play, if you can believe that, with some of these NPCs to get the information you need. And that's one of its strongest features as well, is it has really good NPCs, well fleshed out. They've got their own desires, their wants, what they hate, what they like. And they also have their own schemes. They may need the player characters to help them with their schemes in order to get the information out of them. Or, of course, you could just kill them. Here's one of the first pieces of art. It's not professionally, like, super it's OSR art with a European feel. It's not technically the best art, but it gets the job done. And there are several pieces that I really do like. I like this piece. It does stand out. It's a little bit different. Is it up to, like, other Lamentations of the Flame Princess products that I've seen? Is the layout and stuff? No. But it is very evocative of this type of adventure set in this area. So the events so far of what's going on, they tried to send some people in there, especially this Father Bryn, but they've gone missing. They've had to open up another entrance to the Catacombs, and that's where the player characters come in. Here's what I was telling you about the County of Grenzland with the different locations, the Barrows, the Wolf's Bog, and the Castle Aarhorst. And there's travel encounters that might happen. Here is the Jaca Garcias, the Marauders that are in the ruin of Aarhorst. That's the one I was telling you about. She's got information, but she also wants someone to be killed, and she needs player characters to help kill that person. And so there's a lot of that, a lot of interesting characters that got their own motivations, and they want the player characters to either help them or get information for them. So you can see here's the ruin. Here, the first floor, the cellar, and the crypt, and so it's a pretty small area here. It's not extremely big, but it is really dense and fleshed out. And this is, again, another one of its strongest features. Is it has a cool thing where, like, this blacksmith, it's not just doesn't tell you, hey, this blacksmith is doing this. You roll a d6 and he's sleeping on a wolf pelt, or he's counting his silver from a bag into his hand, or he's peeing in the corner, back is to the door, or he sits at the work table and writes in a diary. Oh, diary's bold. What's up with that? Well, we go up here, diary. Records of the mercenaries telling of his 11 years of work experience, the 2 wives, and the 7 children he buried. So it does that. Sleeping place, made from wolfskins. Well, here's sleeping place, stinking of death mask with inserted rotted teeth. Stinking death mask with inserted rotted teeth, stolen from a grave near Magdeburg. Sperber is using the death mask to find out where the others are hiding their gold. You see work table is highlighted, is bold, so here it is down here, rusty tools. And this is that new kind of way Merkborg did it. I take inspiration from it with my adventures of giving you that thing bold, and then down here's the relevant information of stuff that's important in that location. It's very, very helpful. So if you rolled up that he's asleep, and he wakes up immediately if the PC's entered the forge, other than sneaking. So it just is really well done, and it allows for it to be extremely dense, a word I'll be saying a ton, and you'll probably get tired of hearing it. So, look, again, here's the map. Here's the descriptions and stuff of this place. Marcus has really done a great job at just fleshing everything out, and you'll see it. Every room has got texture, feel, description, to it. Nowhere in this adventure does it seem like any of the catacombs or the areas here were left with just, it's a bare room. No, it's got this going on, this. It smells like that. There's blood, there's this. It just really, really is fleshed out. And here, it continues on and goes. She wants stuff. You've got to help her. Or you can go in there and just try to kill them. So right here, this sarcophagi. In the mass lies a scuffed tome bound in pigskin titled The Magic of the Toad. And I'm about to lose my battery because I've been trying to do this so many times. So hopefully I'll get it done before it dies on me. So here's the Wolf's Bog. This also has got a lot of information for the player characters. You can get lost in there. There's swamp elves. There's events that happen in the bog. There's the shrine to Josquatl, who is the toad god, part of that toad cult. And there's a sorcerer. I love this piece of art. It definitely feels to me of an older world European feel to it. I think it's one of the best. There's a lot of magical items and kind of poison and stuff like that are in the adventure, as well as some, I wouldn't say deadly magical traps, but ones that will absolutely just debilitate your character. There is no way that, in my opinion, that characters will go into this adventure completely, they complete it and not be scarred, missing an arm, missing an eye, or dead, of course. But I think it is beatable. I know Lamentations is known for having pretty much unbeatable adventures. You can beat this one, I feel, but you will be scarred and damaged. The Barrow is very cool. Again, information. And like right here, I just really like this. Like inside the Barrow. Dark and narrow corridor. If the PCs move forward, their shoulders graze damp stone walls. The floor is covered with stone tiles. Water is dripping from the ceiling, torches hissing. Aerial roots touching faces and hair of the PCs. That's just so descriptive, in my opinion, in that small an area. And that's what the adventure does all throughout it. And that's why it's dense, and that's why it's difficult to make a video about it. So here's the town Bruckstadt proper. Great map. You could use this town for any other campaign setting that you want, especially if you have one that's got a European type feel to it. Older, based in kind of historical sense. I love the NPCs. They've got interesting, it's probably her best thing, is they've got interesting expressions on their face that go with the player, how they describe themselves. Like this guy, Reuben Wolfsgrau, which is the count. He cares little about religion, but he knows that the ritual in honor of the saint must be performed so as not to alarm the people. He despises his devout son. He desires Lily, the prostitute without legs. Loves his old hunting dog, Grief. And then here's his son, who is pale and unwashed. He's a religious zealot. Despises laughter as the devil's grimace. Against his father's will, he wants to have the midwife Schipple burned at the stake for witchcraft. So they're really well done, a lot of information and great expressions on their face. I think that capture the characters really well. I mean, he's not happy. Look at that. We've all seen that face before. Not impressed. And so there's a brothel, there's prostitutes, there is a section of refugees. This lady here is a midwife. That's the one I just read you about, that he wants her burned at the stake as witchcraft. She's got some services, and some of those services are like this. They're voluntary donations. It could be maybe she wants to serve at school of a dead king. She wants to be made pregnant by one of the PCs. Again, that's where that adult theme's going to come in. Or she wants to yearn from the son of Count Wolfsgrau. So some players might be like, that's absurd, I'm not going to do that. But some players might be like, huh. And that could be its own little side mission right along. Interesting to role play. Might not be for every group, but it's there. And I think it's well done. This beggar's pretty cool. He's got a whole bunch of different type of things that happens when you encounter him. And again, a lot of these NPCs have got schemes and stuff that deal with the catacombs, that deal with the different factions that are involved in this area. This is one of our first pieces of adult, I would say, piece of art with these refugees. She's happy. I don't know what's going on. We can't see what's going on behind there. But if she's happy, I bet he's happy as well. So, yes, more of adult-themed thing there. And I just spit on my iPad. So, here's the catacombs and the different areas that are in them. So layered, so dense, so much stuff going on. NPCs. This guy's he's part of the Clenched Fist. It's pretty much a group of kind of like grave robbers. He's the leader of them. He's also a werewolf. He's got something going on. People think that a bear has been released, and it's actually him killing people in his werewolf form. You, of course, can try to kill them or get him on your side. So none of the player characters are one-dimensional whatsoever. Again, we can see the Lonely Grave sarcophagus and then the inscription. So if the PC's open the sarcophagus, this is what happened. Here's the inscription. It says what the inscription is. The carcass, the hardly battered carcass of a bear. The black fur was torn into bloody bits by claws. The circus bear was killed by the werewolf. Trutskopf. I guess that's how you say it. So good luck you as well, should you check it out. You try to do these names. Should you not be well-versed in German stuff. So, yeah, there's a bunch of tombs, because obviously this is, it's a crypt. It's catacombs, so it's going to have a lot of crypts and stuff like that. Here's a statue of that Jaws Quaddle, that toad god. And like right here, it says, on a pedestal sits the wet and shiny statue of a toad made of green stone. The stone base of the sculpture has plate-sized depression inscribed with a Greek inscription. So the depression is filled with black water. At the bottom of the depression lie dozens of brownish fingernails. It's got some nasty stuff in it. It's got some terrible, terrible magical traps. The inscription says, "Hail Jalsquattle, may he graciously accept this offering. If you drink from it, you are marked, and henceforth understand and read Dungair," I guess that's how you say it, the language of the swamp elves, which you'll find in the bog. If someone throws a fingernail into the basin that was not already in the basin, the secret door in the east wall opens and gives way to room 29. It just has that interesting magical weirdness with it, like that right there. Is someone going to try to do that? Maybe. Will they get the hint too? Yeah. Will they do that though? I don't know. Will they try to go find a body, rip off the fingernail and throw it in there? Yes, possibly so. And that's where all the magical stuff like that is really kind of quirky, unique, and interesting. And again, one of its best qualities. There's one of those books you need to highlight. And then stone spiders. This is the second area. Again, I cannot go through all this. There's a vampiress, a vampire lady in here. How you interact with her. She's probably going to try to kill you, of course. She's a vampire. That's what they do. And then this is an interesting piece of art here. This guy's taking a piss, and that skeleton's getting fresh. This guy's checking out this sarcophagus. The royal tombs. Some cool art there. Looks like a dwarf of some sort. And we keep on going. Then the cannibal hideout. Now, the cannibals are absolutely crazy. Of course they are. They're cannibals. They've got a lot of stuff going on with them. There is kind of a leader of them. They're all sorts about debauchery and degeneracy. They more than likely need to be killed. That's my opinion, but your player characters may choose a different fate for them. They can be used to some degree, but like a lot of them right here, two cannibals with sweaty faces are having sex. This cannibal cuts off an earlobe and eats it with eyes closed, chewing slowly. So they're degenerate, and they should be probably put down. Here's the leader of them. He's got his thing going on, his own kind of scheme and plan. And I like this piece of art here, these guys kind of looking. It just continues on and on and on. And there's not a whole bunch of like tentacle monsters or huge big beasts that are strange. They're all still kind of rooted in this area and this location of the catacombs. Here's the tomb of the Inquisitor. Of course, pretty big area here. And again, none of these rooms have been just toss away rooms. They're all fully, here, cell with a noose, a wobbly barrel under a rope with a noose. Way out, someone has scrawled on the wall with charcoal. So even that has got some sort of texture to it with this rope, with a noose. And then we're going to continue on. They're going to go down. And this is an interesting piece of art here. Like I said, I don't think the art is going to be for everybody's liking, but I like it. And of course, that's my opinion. And then in the end, you're going to fight Father Bren, and which you would think it would probably be the Inquisitor, but no, you'll find out more about it should you check out the adventure. So, and then it's going to have an appendix. There's curses that can happen to the player characters as if they need anything else go bad with them. It's like I said, they're going to be really, really roughed up in this adventure. In the tavern, what's going on in the tavern, you roll for that. Rumors, torchbearers and hirelings, all of these are even fleshed out. Sweats and stinks of cheese, he's mute. Pox-scarred surgeon with a dent in his head. Gaunt day laborer and alcoholic, reliable and brave as long as his flask is full. So just really great. And so you could have him, but maybe if he has emptied his flask after 3 hours, you roll a d4, and maybe he hallucinates, maybe he's nervous, maybe he's aggressive. That's interesting. Even the hirelings are unique and can do stuff differently than you would normally think. What happens to Bruckstadt should all hell break loose and the curse run amok? This is what's going to happen. It's interesting that you can play that out. Talking about the dead that are in there, the diseases that they may get, and then here's that section on magical and rare items. Very important to look through this, highlight the certain ones like the Diary of Father Bren, highlight like this Tractatus Levarium, an extensive treatise on ghosts and apparitions. From the PCs can learn the following, boom, 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 as you can see, and so forth. And then there's more information here on the Cult of the Toad, random encounters that might happen for areas 2 and 3. And then this guy's got his pecker out. So that is the adventure. I can't say more good things about it. And of course, I'm always going to spotlight the good stuff in a lot of these adventures, because you can, there's people out there and be like, oh, well, the art's not 100% what I like. Well, the adventure itself, and that's what you're paying for, truly. That's what you're going to have a lot of time with, and that's what, hopefully the good stories you'll be able to create with your players. That's what the adventure is good about. So great NPCs, really well thought out how they are. You can use those in other campaigns as well as the town of Bruckstadt. A very dense adventure, catacomb dungeon crawl, with just tons of stuff in rooms, lots of loot to be gotten, lots of damage to be done to your characters, with an interesting story, with a lot of NPCs that have schemes, backstabs, and you can use them or not use them. I doubt anyone is going to find a group that has two groups that have played this exactly the same. You can align with these people to help you here. You can find this. You may not have found that. It's going to be unique every single time you run this adventure if you play it with different groups. So that's The Saint of Bruckstadt. I highly recommend it if you want a more adult, explicit content. Once again, like I said, based in Germany, with some great NPCs and just a really textured adventure, with everything is really laid out, described really well, and I think it's gonna be an easy adventure to run because of having all those rooms being so descriptive, as well as those NPCs so unique, in order for you to role play them, should you run it. So there it is, The Saint of Bruckstadt. I appreciate you watching this video. It's been a real hard one to make, but hopefully I've been able to kind of get the gist of it. And there's so much more, of course, that I missed that I just couldn't talk about. But schemes, plots, NPCs, a cool story, lots of cool loot, lots of strange magical curses and magical traps. But overall, it's just a really well done adventure that I think you could definitely use for any other OSR game, because it'll tell you, if it says like bushcraft, it may say like wisdom, so you can use that for a normal OSR type game should you make a check or something. Bushcraft is going to be for Lamentations, and wisdom for any other type of OSR game. So there it is. I appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.